in other countries. Number 1. Transporting drugs in Southeast Asia. It's illegal to transport drugs in all parts of the world. In the United States, you'd be arrested for transporting drugs. If you transport a lot of drugs, you could end up spending years behind bars. If you're caught transporting drugs in China, you're going to get a lot more than a prison sentence. More than likely, you will be killed. Recently, a British man was executed for smuggling heroin into China. A British woman was also caught transporting drugs. She was sentenced to death by firing squad in Laos. After it was discovered that she was pregnant, she was sentenced to life in prison. If you live in Singapore and you are caught with as little as 3 grams of morphine or 15 grams of marijuana, you would get an automatic death sentence by hanging. In the United States, that would usually get you just probation. Number 2. Killing a cow in India. In India, cows are considered to be sacred. They are so sacred, in fact, that if you kill a cow for food, you can be put to death. The same is true if you are driving down the road and you accidentally hit a cow. If you're planning to go to India, make sure you drive slowly and carefully in cow country. Also, try to resist your craving for a hamburger. Number 3. Having an affair in the Sudan or Iran. In the United States, people have premarital sex all the time. It's not right, but it happens. If you're living in the Sudan and you have premarital sex, you better be willing to die for it. In 2012, 2 women from the Sudan were caught cheating on their husbands. They were sentenced to death by stoning. Fortunately for these women, the sentence was overturned because it was proven that the women's confessions were forced. In Iran, there are currently 10 people, mostly women, who are on death row for the crime of adultery. Number 4. White-collar crimes in China and Iran. If you commit a white-collar crime in the United States, such as fraudulently raising funds, you'll likely go to a white-collar prison. These are low-security prisons. Some even have golf courses, believe it or not. Or you commit the same crime in China. The penalty is much greater there. In 2012, a businesswoman named Wu Ying went on trial for this same crime. China's Supreme People's Court sentenced her to death. In July 2012, 4 men from Iran were convicted of corruption and disrupting the country's economic system when they committed bank fraud. That's considered another white-collar crime in the United States, but because they were in Iran, they were sentenced to death. Number 5. Opposing the government in the Sudan and Iran. In the United States, people are free to speak out if they don't like something that's happening in the government. It's even legal to hold protests against the government. That's not the case in the Sudan. If you do anything to show your opposition to the government, you can be put to death. In March 2012, a Sudanese teacher and activist was charged with undermining the constitutional system and waging war on the state. Those are capital crimes there. Fortunately, she was acquitted of the crime and sentenced to a lesser charge. In 2012, it was discovered that a man from Iran had ties to a banned Iranian opposition group. This was a capital offense. Originally, he was sentenced to a prison term. However, after 2 retrials, he was sentenced to death. Number 6. Giving flowers in Russia. In the United States, it's customary to give a dozen roses as a gift. If you're in Russia and you're giving flowers, you better not ever give anyone a dozen flowers. Given an even number of flowers is considered an insult. That's because roses are only given in even numbers at funerals. That's not something that can get you killed, but it can make a person really mad, enough that they'd want to kill you. Number 7. Offending or abandoning religion in Iran. In Iran, religion is taken very seriously. If anybody insults or desecrates Islam, they can be put to death. In 2010, a web programmer developed a software package and it was used without his knowledge to post pornographic images online. He was originally sentenced to death. However, after he claimed to have repented, the sentence was suspended. Most people in Iran won't denounce Islam because they are too afraid of the consequences. Number 8. Drinking in North Korea. This is one of the strangest things that can get you killed in another country. In North Korea, you're only allowed to drink on special days. In 2012, a man was caught drinking during the 100-day mourning period of the late Kim Jong-il. When he was caught drinking, the current leader, Kim Jong-un, sentenced the man to death. He demanded that the man be obliterated with no trace of him behind down to his hair. The officer